The Christmas betrayal. The perfect beginning. Emma Clark had always believed in Christmas magic. At 28 years old, she had planned hundreds of holiday events, transforming ordinary spaces into winter wonderlands. But she had never experienced the kind of magic she felt the moment Alexander Frost walked into the Grand Hotel ballroom on December 1st. The charity gala was one of her biggest projects. Crystal snowflakes hung from the ceiling, catching the light from 1,000 tiny bulbs. The air smelled of pine and cinnamon. Emma was checking the placement of centerpieces when she heard a deep voice behind her. "This is beautiful work." She turned and felt her breath catch. He was tall, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples, sharp blue eyes, and a smile that seemed to hold secrets. His black suit was perfectly tailored, and he moved with the confidence of someone who owned every room he entered. "Thank you," Emma managed, suddenly aware of the clipboard she was clutching. "Are you here for the gala?" "Alexander Frost." He extended his hand. "I'm one of the sponsors, and you must be the artist behind all this." His hand was warm, his grip firm. Emma felt a flutter in her stomach she hadn't experienced in years. "Emma Clark. I'm the event planner." "Well, Emma Clark, you've created something truly special here." He didn't let go of her hand right away. "Tell me, do event planners ever get to enjoy their own parties? Or are you working all night?" "Usually working," she laughed, finally pulling her hand back. "Someone has to make sure the magic stays alive." "That seems unfair," Alexander said, his eyes never leaving hers. "The person who creates the magic should get to experience it too." Before Emma could respond, her assistant called her away to handle a problem with the catering. She excused herself, feeling Alexander's gaze follow her across the room. The gala was a success, but Emma barely noticed. Every time she looked up, Alexander was there, watching her with an intensity that made her heart race. At the end of the night, as guests filed out, he approached her again. "Have dinner with me," he said. Not a question, but not quite a command either. "I don't even know you," Emma replied, though she was already mentally checking her schedule. "Then let's fix that. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up." Emma found herself nodding, giving him her address, watching as he disappeared into the December night. She stood in the empty ballroom, surrounded by her winter wonderland, and allowed herself to believe in magic once more. The whirlwind romance. The next 3 weeks moved like a dream. Alexander was everything Emma had never known she wanted. He took her ice skating at a private rink he rented just for them, the ice gleaming under strings of lights. He hired a helicopter to fly over the city so she could see the Christmas displays from above. He sent flowers to her office every day, each arrangement more elaborate than the last. But it wasn't the grand gestures that made Emma fall. It was the quiet moments. The way he listened when she talked about her dreams of opening her own event planning company. The way he held her hand during romantic movies. The way he kissed her forehead and called her "my Emma." One evening, as they walked through the snow-covered park, Alexander stopped under a street lamp. The light caught the snowflakes in his dark hair. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice serious. "I don't let people in easily. My childhood was lonely. Boarding schools, absent parents, wealth but no warmth." He looked away. "I've never felt this way about anyone. You make me want to be better." Emma's heart melted. She reached up and touched his face, cold from the winter air. "You don't have to be anything but yourself with me," she whispered. He pulled her close, and they stood there in the falling snow, two people who seemed perfectly made for each other. Emma introduced him to her family the following weekend. Her parents welcomed him warmly. Her younger sister, Sophie, whispered, "He's perfect, Em. Don't let this one go." Emma didn't plan to. She was already imagining future Christmases, future celebrations, a future that looked bright and full of love, planning the perfect surprise. As Christmas Eve approached, Emma wanted to do something special. Alexander had been so generous with his grand gestures. She wanted to show him that love didn't have to be expensive to be meaningful. She learned he would be spending Christmas Eve at his mountain estate, a place he rarely visited. He mentioned it casually, saying he needed to handle some business there. Emma saw an opportunity. "What if I came up a day early?" she suggested. "I could decorate, make the place feel like Christmas. You've given me so much. Let me give you this." Alexander seemed surprised, then touched. "You'd do that for me?" "I'd do anything for you," Emma said, meaning every word. He gave her the key and the security code. "I'll arrive Christmas Eve around 6.
Surprise-me.
Emma spent days planning. She bought a real tree, handmade ornaments, strings of warm lights. She packed everything carefully, along with ingredients for his favorite meal. She enlisted her sister to help her load the car. "This is so romantic," Sophie sighed. "He's going to love it." Emma hugged her sister. "I just want him to feel the kind of Christmas magic he missed as a child. I want him to know what it feels like to be truly loved." On December 23rd, Emma drove up to the mountain estate. It was even more beautiful than Alexander had described. A modern structure of glass and stone, perched on a hillside with views of snow-covered peaks. The interior was minimalist and cold, all marble and steel. "Perfect," Emma whispered. "Time to make this a home." She worked through the evening and into the night. The tree went up in front of the massive windows. She strung lights along the railings, placed candles on every surface, hung the ornaments she'd made, each one representing a moment from their relationship. A tiny ice skate, a miniature helicopter, a small picture frame with a photo of them together. By midnight, the transformation was complete. The cold, modern space now glowed with warmth and love. Emma stood back, admiring her work, imagining Alexander's face when he saw it. Exhausted but happy, she decided to rest for a few hours on the couch before starting on the meal preparation. Tomorrow would be perfect. Tomorrow would be the Christmas they both deserved. The shattering truth. Emma woke to the sound of voices. Male voices, laughing. She checked her phone, confused. It was only 4 in the morning. Alexander wasn't supposed to arrive until evening. She sat up, disoriented. The lights from her decorations cast warm shadows on the walls. The voices were coming from somewhere deeper in the house. Alexander's voice, and others she didn't recognize. Maybe he'd arrived early and brought friends? But why wouldn't he have called her? Emma stood, smoothing down her rumpled clothes. She followed the sound of voices down a hallway. They were coming from what looked like a study. The door was slightly open. She was about to push it wider and announce herself when she heard her name. "So Emma actually bought all this?" A male voice dripping with amusement. "Hook, line, and sinker," Alexander's voice replied. That familiar voice she loved. But the tone was wrong. It was cold, mocking. "She spent 3 weeks setting this up. It's actually kind of sad." Emma froze, her hand on the door. "Dude, you're going to win this bet easily." Another voice laughed. "Jenkins thought his target was into him, but your girl is literally decorating your house. That's next level. Show us the photo evidence." A third voice demanded. Emma's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She should walk away. She should leave. But her feet wouldn't move. "Here," Alexander said. Through the crack in the door, Emma could see him holding up his phone. "Ice skating. Helicopter ride. Meeting the family. And look at this one from last night. She sent me a photo of all the decorations. Said she wanted to make me feel loved." The laughter that followed was cruel and sharp. Cut through Emma like broken glass. "How much was the bet again?" someone asked. $5,000, Alexander said. "Winner is whoever makes their target fall hardest by Christmas. Has to have photographic evidence of the girl saying, 'I love you,' and meeting the family. Bonus points for gifts or grand gestures on their part." "And Victoria doesn't mind?" another voice asked. "Victoria suggested the whole thing," Alexander laughed. "She thinks it's hilarious. We're going to announce our engagement at the New Year's Eve gala. This is just some entertainment before I settle down." Emma's vision blurred with tears.
Victoria.
His fiancée. Of course he had a fiancée. How had she been so blind? The best part, Alexander continued, and Emma could hear the smile in his voice, is how desperate she was. All that talk about meaningful gestures and simple love. Please, she was so easy to manipulate. A few fake tears about my lonely childhood, and she was completely hooked. What are you going to tell her? Someone asked. Nothing, Alexander said dismissively. I'll send her a text tomorrow saying I got called away on business. She'll be heartbroken. I'll win the bet, and life goes on. She's just some event planner. It's not like she matters. Emma's hand flew to her mouth to stop the sob that threatened to escape. She backed away from the door, her whole body shaking. The beautiful decorations she'd hung with such love now seemed to mock her. The lights blurred through her tears. She moved quickly and quietly, grabbing her purse and coat. She didn't take anything else. Not the presents she'd wrapped. Not the ingredients for the meal she'd planned to cook. She left it all there, evidence of her foolishness. The drive down the mountain was a blur of tears and snow. Emma didn't remember most of it. She only knew that she needed to get away, needed to be anywhere but in that house where her heart had been broken into 1,000 pieces. Christmas Eve alone. Emma made it to her parents' house just as dawn was breaking. Sophie opened the door, took one look at her sister's face, and pulled her inside. What happened? What did he do? Emma collapsed in her sister's arms and told her everything. Their parents came down, drawn by the sound of crying. Her father's face went dark with rage when he heard the story. Her mother held her and stroked her hair like she was a little girl again. I was so stupid, Emma sobbed. How did I not see it? How did I believe him? You're not stupid, her mother said firmly. You trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a flaw in you. That's a flaw in him. I loved him, Emma whispered. I really thought he loved me back. Sophie's eyes flashed with anger. What's his last name? I'm going to destroy him on social media. I'm going to tell everyone what kind of person he is. Frost, Emma said dully. Alexander Frost, of Frost Enterprises. Her father's eyes widened. The hotel chain? He's that Frost. Emma nodded miserably. Of course he was wealthy enough to make $5,000 seem like pocket change. Of course he was powerful enough to treat people like toys. They spent Christmas Eve trying to comfort her, but Emma felt numb. She sat by the window watching snow fall, thinking about how just yesterday she'd believed in magic. How foolish. How naive. Magic wasn't real. Love was just another game for people like Alexander Frost. As midnight approached, Emma's phone buzzed. A text from Alexander. Emergency business trip. So sorry to miss Christmas Eve. Make it up to you soon. Just like he'd told his friends. Not even creative enough to come up with a different excuse. Emma stared at the message for a long time. She thought about responding, about confronting him, about demanding an explanation even though she already knew the truth. But what would be the point? Then something shifted inside her. The crushing sadness began to harden into something else. Something cold and focused. Alexander Frost thought she was just some event planner who didn't matter. He thought he could use her and discard her without consequences. He thought she was desperate and easy to manipulate. He had no idea what he'd just created. The transformation begins. Emma woke up on Christmas morning with a new sense of purpose. Her family found her at the kitchen table, laptop open, making notes. What are you doing? Sophie asked, setting down a cup of coffee. Research, Emma said calmly. Tell me what you know about Frost Enterprises. Her sister sat down, excited. Are we planning revenge? Please tell me we're planning revenge. I'm considering my options, Emma replied, but her eyes were sharp, focused in a way they hadn't been since she'd overheard that horrible conversation. Over the next few hours, Emma learned everything she could about Alexander Frost. His company, his social circle, his business dealings, and most importantly, his upcoming New Year's Eve charity gala. The event was massive. 500 guests, major investors, media coverage. It was meant to announce the merger between Frost Enterprises and the Sinclair Hotel Group. Alexander's merger with Victoria Sinclair's family business. Emma sat back, a slow smile spreading across her face. An event. A major public event. That was something she understood. That was her territory. "What are you thinking?" her mother asked cautiously. "I'm thinking," Emma said slowly, "that Alexander Frost made a mistake. He thought I was weak. He thought I didn't matter. He's about to learn how wrong he was." Sophie clapped her hands. "Yes, what's the plan?" Emma looked at her family, these people who loved her unconditionally, who supported her even when she was broken, who believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. "The plan," Emma said, "is to give Alexander Frost the best event of his life, and then to make sure it's also his last." Her father frowned. "Emma, be careful. Revenge can consume you." "This isn't revenge, Dad," Emma replied. "This is justice. There's a difference. He's done this before. I guarantee I'm not the first woman he's hurt. And if I don't do something, I won't be the last." She looked down at her notes at the date circled in red. December 31st. New Year's Eve. The night Alexander thought he'd have everything he wanted. His merger. His engagement to Victoria. His perfect life. "He took my Christmas," Emma said quietly. "He took my trust, my love, and my dreams. He made me feel small and foolish and worthless." She looked up, and her family saw something new in her eyes. Not the soft, romantic Emma who believed in magic. Someone stronger. Someone who knew exactly what she was worth. "I'm going to take his new year," Emma finished, "and I'm going to make sure he never forgets it." The broken-hearted event planner who'd driven down that mountain in tears was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone who'd learned that magic wasn't real, but power was. Someone who knew how to plan the perfect event. And someone who was about to plan the perfect reckoning. Christmas Day ended not with despair, but with determination. Emma had been shattered, but she was rebuilding herself into something sharper. Something dangerous. Alexander Frost had played a game and thought he'd won. He had no idea the game had only just begun. The Ice Queen rises. Building the perfect plan. The day after Christmas, Emma sat in her home office surrounded by papers, her laptop glowing in the dim light. She'd barely slept, but she felt more awake than she had in weeks. Pain had a way of sharpening focus. She started with what she knew best. Events. The New Year's Eve gala was being planned by Morrison Events, a company she'd worked with before. The lead planner was Catherine Morrison, a woman Emma had mentored years ago. Emma picked up her phone and dialed. "Emma, Merry Christmas." Catherine's cheerful voice came through. "How was your holiday?" "Interesting," Emma replied, keeping her voice steady. "Listen, I heard you're handling the Frost Enterprises gala. That's a huge job." "It's massive," Catherine admitted.
"Honestly, I'm overwhelmed."
500 guests, all the big names in the city, and Alexander Frost is incredibly particular. "Between you and me, I'm terrified I'm going to mess something up." Emma's heart beat faster. "What if I helped you? As a consultant?" "No charge." "Consider it a favor for all the times I've sent work your way." There was a pause. "Really? Emma, that would be amazing. But why would you do that?" "Because I care about you," Emma said, which was true. "And because I want to expand my network. This event will have everyone who matters. Let me help you shine, and we both benefit." Catherine agreed immediately. Just like that, Emma had access. She was inside. Next, Emma turned her attention to Alexander's past. If she was right, she wasn't his first victim. Men like him had patterns. She started digging through social media, charity events, holiday gatherings from previous years. Took 2 days, but she found them. Finding the others. The first was Sarah Mitchell. Emma recognized her from a photo at last year's Christmas charity event. She was standing next to Alexander, smiling brightly. But when Emma found her current social media, there were no mentions of him. No photos. Nothing. Emma sent a direct message. "Hi Sarah. We haven't met, but I'm Emma Clark. I believe we have someone in common. Alexander Frost. I'd like to talk to you about last Christmas. Please. The response came within an hour. Coffee. Tomorrow. I'll tell you everything. They met at a small cafe downtown. Sarah was a graphic designer, creative and kind-looking. She sat down across from Emma with haunted eyes. He did it to you too, didn't he? Sarah said quietly. Emma nodded. Tell me what happened. Sarah's story was painfully familiar. Alexander had swept her off her feet during the holidays. Grand gestures, intimate confessions, promises of a future together. Then, right after Christmas, he'd simply vanished.
No explanation. No closure.
Just gone. I thought there was something wrong with me, Sarah whispered. I spent months wondering what I'd done to make him leave. I saw a therapist. I couldn't trust anyone after that. How did you find out the truth? Emma asked. I didn't. Not until now. Sarah looked up, tears in her eyes. You mean it wasn't real for you either? It was all fake. Emma told her about the bet, about the conversation she'd overheard. Sarah's face went pale, then red with anger. That monster, she breathed. He made me think I was crazy. He made me doubt everything about myself. He's done it to others, Emma said. Will you help me find them? Sarah didn't hesitate. Yes. Together, they found Michelle Rodriguez and Jennifer Chun. Michelle was a teacher who'd met Alexander 2 years ago. Jennifer was a nurse who'd fallen for him 3 Christmases past. Each woman had the same story. The whirlwind romance. The sudden disappearance. The lingering pain and self-doubt. They met at Emma's apartment 4 days after Christmas. For women, all broken by the same man. All ready to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. I can't believe he's been doing this for years, Jennifer said, her hands shaking around her coffee cup. Emma sent a direct message. Hi Sarah, we haven't met, but I'm Emma Clark. I believe we have someone in common. Alexander Frost. I'd like to talk to you about last Christmas. Please. The response came within an hour. Coffee. Tomorrow. I'll tell you everything. They met at a small cafe downtown. Sarah was a graphic designer, creative and kind-looking. She sat down across from Emma with haunted eyes. He did it to you too, didn't he? Sarah said quietly. Emma nodded. Tell me what happened. Sarah's story was painfully familiar. Alexander had swept her off her feet during the holidays. Grand gestures, intimate confessions, promises of a future together. Then, right after Christmas, he'd simply vanished.
No explanation. No closure.
Just gone. I thought there was something wrong with me, Sarah whispered. I spent months wondering what I'd done to make him leave. I saw a therapist. I couldn't trust anyone after that. How did you find out the truth? Emma asked. I didn't. Not until now. Sarah looked up, tears in her eyes. You mean it wasn't real for you either? It was all fake. Emma told her about the bet, about the conversation she'd overheard. Sarah's face went pale, then red with anger. That monster, she breathed. He made me think I was crazy. He made me doubt everything about myself. He's done it to others, Emma said. Will you help me find them? Sarah didn't hesitate. Yes. Together, they found Michelle Rodriguez and Jennifer Chun. Michelle was a teacher who'd met Alexander 2 years ago. Jennifer was a nurse who'd fallen for him 3 Christmases past. Each woman had the same story. The whirlwind romance. The sudden disappearance. The lingering pain and self-doubt. They met at Emma's apartment 4 days after Christmas. For women, all broken by the same man. All ready to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. I can't believe he's been doing this for years, Jennifer said, her hands shaking around her coffee cup. I can't believe we all fell for it. We didn't fall for anything, Emma said firmly. We trusted someone who seemed trustworthy. We opened our hearts to someone who presented himself as worthy. That's not weakness. That's being human. So what do we do? Michelle asked. Report him? Sue him? For what? Sarah said bitterly. Being a jerk isn't illegal. Breaking hearts isn't a crime. No, Emma agreed. But fraud might be. And I have a plan. She spread out papers on her coffee table. Photos of Alexander with each of them. Timelines showing the pattern. Records of gifts, expenses, the calculated nature of his deception. He's getting engaged on New Year's Eve, Emma explained, to Victoria Sinclair. Their families are merging their hotel companies. It's a business arrangement as much as a marriage. But here's what's interesting. She pulled up an article on her laptop. Victoria Sinclair has a reputation. She's known for being ruthless in business. Some people call her the ice queen of the hotel industry. And here's the thing. I don't think she's a victim in this. I think she's his partner. Emma showed them a photo from a society blog. Victoria at a charity event 3 years ago. In the background, barely visible, was Alexander. With Jennifer. She knew, Emma said quietly. She's known all along. This isn't just Alexander's game. It's theirs. The women looked at each other, understanding dawning. This wasn't about one man's cruelty. It was about two people who thought they were untouchable. What's your plan? Sarah asked. Emma smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. I'm going to give them the gala of their dreams, she said. And then I'm going to make sure their nightmares come true. The investigation. Emma hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb. He was expensive, but he was the best. She met him in his office, a cluttered space filled with filing cabinets and computer screens. I need everything on Victoria Sinclair, Emma said. Personal life, business dealings, secrets, anything that might be useful. Marcus raised an eyebrow. This about the Frost merger? You could say that. Lady, I don't usually ask questions, but Alexander Frost has powerful friends. You sure you want to go down this road? Emma met his eyes steadily. I've never been more sure of anything. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, give me a week. While Marcus worked, Emma focused on the gala. She met with Catherine Daly, offering suggestions, taking over more and more of the planning. Catherine was grateful for the help, never suspecting Emma's real motives. Emma made subtle changes. She switched the photography team to one she trusted. She adjusted the AV setup, ensuring she'd have control over every screen and speaker in the venue. She rearranged the seating chart, placing key people exactly where she wanted them. Alexander never noticed. He was too busy with business meetings and preparations for his engagement. The few times Emma had to communicate with him through Catherine, she made sure he never knew she was involved. 5 days after hiring him, Marcus called Emma to his office. His expression was serious. You were right to dig into Victoria Sinclair, he said, spreading photos across his desk. She's been having an affair. Emma's eyes widened. With who? James Morrison. He owns Morrison Hotel Group, Frost's biggest competitor. Marcus pulled up financial records on his computer. And it gets better. Victoria's been feeding James inside information about Frost Enterprises. The merger isn't about combining companies. It's about Victoria getting access to all of Alexander's business secrets so she can hand them over to James. She's planning to destroy him from the inside. Emma breathed. Looks like it. Once they're married, she'll have access to everything. James can undercut every deal, steal every client. Within a year, Frost Enterprises would be bankrupt. Emma sat back, her mind racing. Alexander had been playing a game with women's hearts. But Victoria had been playing a bigger game with his entire company. Neither of them knew about the other's deception. Can you document all of this? Emma asked. Photos? Records? Everything? Marcus grinned. Already done. Whatever you're planning, you've got ammunition now. Emma gathered the evidence carefully. She had recordings of Alexander mocking her and the other women. She had proof of his yearly Christmas bet tradition. She had documentation of Victoria's affair and her plan to commit corporate espionage. She had testimony from 4 women whose lives had been damaged by Alexander's cruelty. It was almost enough. But Emma wanted one more thing: the transformation. On December 28th, Emma went shopping. Not at her usual stores, but at the expensive boutiques she'd always thought were too extravagant. She wasn't the soft, romantic girl anymore. She needed to look like the woman she was becoming. Sarah, Michelle, and Jennifer came with her, providing support and opinions. In a designer store downtown, Emma found it. A dress that was the color of ice. A pale, shimmering silver that seemed to glow. It was elegant and powerful, with clean lines and a confidence that matched her new determination. "You look like a queen," Jennifer whispered when Emma stepped out of the dressing room. "That's the idea," Emma replied, studying herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was someone new, someone strong, someone who couldn't be broken by a man who thought love was a game. She got her hair cut and styled, shorter and sleeker. She bought new makeup, learning to apply it with precision. She practiced walking in heels that made her taller, more imposing. Every change was deliberate, transforming her from the warm event planner Alexander had manipulated into someone he wouldn't recognize. But the biggest transformation was internal. Emma spent hours with her new allies, talking through the plan, preparing for every possibility. They shared their pain, their anger, their determination. They built each other up, reminding each other of their worth. "He made us feel small," Michelle said one evening as they reviewed the final details. "He made us think we were lucky he chose us." "But we weren't lucky," Sarah added. "We were targets." "Not anymore," Emma said firmly. "Now we're the ones in control." The infiltration. On December 29th, disaster struck. Or rather, it appeared to. Catherine Morrison called Emma. Her voice panicked. "Emma, I have a family emergency. My mother's in the hospital. I have to fly to Seattle tonight." "Oh my God, Catherine. Is she okay?" "The doctors think so, but I need to be there." "Emma, I can't do the gala. I can't leave the Frost team without a planner 2 days before the event. I'm going to have to resign and recommend someone else." Emma took a breath. This was the moment. "What if I take over?" "What?" "Emma, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering. I know every detail of this event. I've been helping you for days. I can do this, Catherine. Go be with your mother. I've got this covered." There was relief in Catherine's voice. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure." Emma called Alexander's office that afternoon, speaking to his assistant. "Mr. Frost? This is Emma Clark. I'm taking over as lead planner for your New Year's Eve gala due to Catherine Morrison's family emergency. I wanted to introduce myself and assure you that everything is under control." She used her most professional voice, the one she reserved for difficult clients. There was no trace of the woman who decorated his house with love. Alexander's voice came through the phone, smooth and confident. "Emma Clark? That name sounds familiar." Emma's heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. "I've planned several major charity events in the city. The Winter Gala last year, the Children's Hospital fundraiser. You may have attended some of them." "Ah, yes. Well, Ms. Clark, I trust Catherine's judgment. If she recommends you, I'm sure everything will be perfect." He didn't remember her name. Despite 3 weeks of romance, despite all his declarations of love, he'd already forgotten her. She was that insignificant to him. "I guarantee it will be perfect, Mr. Frost," Emma said coolly. "I'll make sure this is a New Year's Eve you'll never forget." After she hung up, Emma sat in silence for a moment. Then she smiled. Cold, satisfied smile. He didn't recognize her voice. He didn't remember her name. He thought she was just another service provider, beneath his notice. That was his second mistake. His first mistake was breaking her heart. But this one would be his downfall. Final preparations. The next 2 days were a blur of activity. Emma moved through the gala venue like a general preparing for battle. She positioned cameras at strategic angles. She tested the sound system repeatedly. She briefed the staff she'd personally selected, people she trusted to follow her instructions exactly. Sarah, Michelle, and Jennifer would attend as guests. Emma had secured invitations through her industry connections. They would be in the room when everything happened, silent witnesses to justice being served. Emma prepared a presentation. It was disguised as a tribute to Alexander Frost, a celebration of his accomplishments. The first part was genuine. His business successes, his charitable donations, his public image as a respected entrepreneur. The second part was something else entirely. The evidence was compiled into a seamless video presentation. Photos of Alexander with each woman, time-stamped and dated. Audio recordings of him mocking them, describing his cruel bets. Financial records showing the prize money being distributed among his wealthy friends.